Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Mystic. Thank you for returning, or if you're new, welcome. I am about to go into part 3. Stay tuned to the end, and I will have some pictures showing the different instances that I've been through, that I'm telling throughout this story, so you can get a good idea of how badly beat I was. So stay tuned. Let's get to it. I didn't want no problems with him. I'm too worried about my son. I don't care. This is where I started seeing that narcissistic trait would come out so strong, because he felt like I was more focused on my son and no attention was on him. Therefore, he started looking for love in other places. And he found it. So I thought, you gotta love somebody to leave your newborn child in the hospital. That's what I thought. It wasn't even that. It was just that he needed that attention from somebody and he wasn't getting it from me. Not like he used to. Not like it was always on him. As that continued, my cousin started, one of my cousins, my close cousins at that time, started having some problems where they were homeless. Tells me that she's sleeping with her car with her 2 kids and her boyfriend. In my mind, I would never want anything like that to happen to me and my son. And if it was to happen to me and my son, I would want someone to help me. And being very young, the young cousin with a house, you always the one that's going to be called on. Just that being that family member with a house, I was always the one being called on. Even though I was going through what I was going through, the trauma I was going through with my son and being abused, I was still being, the fights were still happening. It didn't stop. I still allowed my cousin to come stay, which was detrimental to our relationship because we no longer have a relationship because of her staying there with me. Ran up all my bills in my house, wasn't helping paying for anything, destroyed furniture, all type of things was happening. With that being said, it was an instance where me and my husband at that time got into a huge fight. My son wasn't there. Actually, my son was there. I'm sorry. This was one of the times where my son was there. It was early in the morning. We got into a big, huge fight about him leaving and not wanting to help me get the bottles ready for him, help me do something, because I was not able to put my son down. Like, he would not let me put him down. He would cry constantly, and I was still scared because I could still hear it where he wasn't breathing properly. So I wanted to make sure he was okay at all times. So I literally had him in my arms at all times, but I wasn't getting any help. And then I was attacked one morning by my ex-husband, and my cousin's boyfriend saw it and did nothing. I was brutally beat that day. I had cuts all down my arm, bruises on my hands, bruises on my face. Like, he literally slammed me into the brick part of my house outside. Only thing I knew was to fight him back. All I knew was to fight him back and try to protect myself. Because if I'm not here for my son, who's going to be here for my son? That was always in my head. Who is going to be here for my baby? And he knew that. He knew how I was as a mother. He seen me as an aunt. So he already knew how I was going to be as a mother and how protective I was. But to see another grown man stand and watch another grown man put hands on a woman like that, and he did nothing, and his child was sitting there watching it, and his child was old enough to know what was happening. He was very young. He was only 2, but he was old. He was watching it. He didn't stop it. After that surgery, I literally got to the point where people being at my house, I seen my bills were going up so high. I literally was giving my son a bath after he got out of surgery, and I just heard everything shut off in the house. I thought we was having a power outage. I'm calling the power company, like, what's going on? And they're like, your lights is off. My lights ain't never been turned off, ever. But I had so many people in my house that my bills was just racking up so high that I had a $1,000 light bill that I had to go run in, take every dime that I was saving. I had saved up so much money to where I was just going to up and leave. But I had to take that money and pay for that light bill. I was devastated. That was my way out. In my head, that was my way out. That money, building it up, make sure me and my son was good. Put him out. Put everybody out. That was my thought. Put everybody out. You got the money built up. You don't need nobody else. You good. But I had to take all the money that I had and just catch all those bills up. It did something to me. It broke me. It broke me because I felt like I didn't have anything else to go by at that point. Because what the thought that I had in my head to leave was not there anymore. I wasn't able to just get up and walk out. Or I wasn't able to put anybody out because I had nothing left. I spent everything. So I had to put my cousin out and her kids, which caused a big rift between me and her. Then it was one day I was sitting. Please excuse the noise in the background. My son is playing with my nephew and you know how that goes. But anyway, like I said, it's no perfect way to record this series. I have done it in a professional setting where I'm being interviewed and all type of things, but that's not the way the story needs to come out. The story needs to come out real authentic. Like I'm in my room. I don't let nobody in my room. Yeah, y'all getting to see my room, and you can see I'm very spiritual and very protected. I didn't know that then. My ex-husband did, but I didn't. He knew exactly who I was, but I didn't. I didn't know who I was. After I got everybody out, I noticed that the fight started coming faster and faster and faster. Every weekend, it was definitely a fight coming. I already knew. I dreaded Fridays. The fights was coming, so like I dreaded Fridays. I literally would go through the week tensed up until Thursday night, and I'm like, okay, get ready for the fight because it's gonna be a fight Friday. Once he start, he can go all week, work, don't drink, but Friday he would come home with all type of beer and would sit and drink and drink and drink and drink until that other side of him come out. But I started noticing that he wouldn't sit home and drink. He wanted to argue and then leave. Where you going? One day he wanted to argue with me so bad, and I just said, you know what? You got it. Take it. Go. Do what you gotta do. I don't care. I don't care. He decided to use my phone. He said he needed to call his cousin and let this cousin know he was on the way. Wasn't his cousin who he called. Was not a cousin that he called. I happened to look at the phone, and the number didn't look familiar to me, and something just said, call it back. I called it back. A female answered. I asked her, did she know LB? And she said yes. I said, how do you know him? She said, well, I'm his girlfriend. I said, I'm his wife. She couldn't believe it. She told me that he was with her every single weekend. I stayed on the phone with her for 3 hours. And we came to the conclusion, we found out that he left me in the hospital when my baby was 7 weeks old after having surgery to go be with her. He turned around and walked back in the door because he forgot something. He walked in the room and I said, hey, I'm on the phone with your girlfriend. You want to speak to her? He ain't like that. He started calling us all out our names. We were all type of B's and hoes and all type of, he didn't want to be with me. He didn't want to be with her. And I was like, I don't want to be with you either. Get your stuff and get out. I said, well, I'm sending him to you. And she was like, I don't want him either, because she didn't even know he had a family. She didn't know he had a family. He had been staying over at her house, playing house with her and her daughter. All while I was doing everything for our newborn son that was very sick. very sick. Once I found out that he started cheating, that's when I knew I was like, that was it for me. And leaving me at the hospital with our newborn son, that was it for me, for a female. You would have thought the fighting would have been it for me, but it took more. It took more. I got to the point where I was exhausted, tired, wasn't getting no rest. One day I was holding my son. Mind you, my son's going on 3 months. I hadn't had any sleep since he was born. Like, I would not sleep. I would stay up all the time, all while still cooking, cleaning, doing everything I needed to do. And one day my body was giving out on me. I already had fibromyalgia. I wasn't taking any medicine for that because I was too worried about going to sleep. And I was starting to fall asleep while holding my son, and my son fell over to the side and landed directly in my dog bed while my dog was laying there asleep. And what woke me up was my dog standing on top of me like, what are you doing? Looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm looking at my son like, oh my God, let me get my baby. But he wasn't harmed. He didn't even wake up. He landed directly in the bed like something coddled him. That's the time when I just said, you know what, I got to get some sleep because I'm not doing anybody any good at this point, especially that I just dropped him in that bed. I called my parents. I was like, y'all have to come get him so I can get some rest. And they did. They've been trying to get me to do it. I wouldn't do it. I was too worried about not being with him. I wanted to make sure he was okay, but I had to give up that control at that time because my body was telling me, you got to get some rest. And that was the first time I started taking some of my medicine just so that my body could relax and get some rest. I was not sexually active with my husband since I had my son, which hence the reason why he went to go find someone else after I had my son. And I woke up to my husband basically getting off of me while I was sleeping. I was very upset because I knew I didn't want to be with him no more, especially after knowing what I knew that he was out there doing. He didn't even know that the girlfriend had called me and told me that he hadn't gave her an STD. And I said, well, I have not been with him since before my son was born, so he didn't get it from me, so that means he has a whole nother person he's messing with as well. I found out 6 weeks later that I was pregnant for the second time. Devastating. I contemplated every option possible about that pregnancy. I told him I was pregnant. He seemed like he was excited, and I'm just looking at him like, how can you be excited when you out doing whatever you're doing? Like, what are you doing? This is not nothing to be excited about. I was not happy about being pregnant. I'm not gonna lie. I was not excited. I was mad. I was like, why? Right now is not the time for this. Like, I need to go. Like, I'm trying to get out of this situation. Then, on top of that, my brother decides to bring in his girlfriend and 4 kids on me to stay with me. I thought that was gonna help me. Like, okay, if they ain't gonna stop this, this will stop the fighting. This will stop the fighting. It made it worse. I didn't tell anybody I was pregnant. I went to get an ultrasound. Everything was fine. I kept debating in my head what I wanted to do. He asked me what was I going to do, and I told him I didn't know. But one day, he had went to work, and I just kept thinking, I felt so weak, I felt drained, I didn't feel good. I'm like, okay, it's the pregnancy, of course, but no, it wasn't. I just kept saying, why can't I leave this person? Like, this person is nothing. He's nothing. Like, what is binding me to him? We're married, but that is not binding me to him. Why can't I leave him? It was one thing that came to my mind. I just kept hearing, remember that story your daddy told you about your grandma? I thought about that story that my dad told me about my grandma. I actually wrote a paper on this story in college and got an award for it. And I had to present it in front of everybody in my class. And nobody really could believe what I was saying in that story was true. It was dealing with dark magic. People putting roots on people to bind them, to harm them, doing death rituals. Why would that come in my head? What do you mean? Why would that come up? So I made a phone call to my family, and I talked to my aunt, and I said, I have 15 minutes before this boy get here, and after that, I can't talk to you. I said, I need you to call whoever you can call to figure out if something's on me for the reason why I can't leave him. I feel like everything is dark. The sun could be shining, but the house is dark to me. When my aunt called me back and told me that I needed to be down to South Carolina in 2 days, but within the next day and a half, I said, okay. She called my dad. She told me my dad exactly what the person told her, and my dad had me down there that morning, Friday morning. That was a Wednesday I called her. Friday morning I was down there. And when I went to this place, it was very creepy. I know what the hell I would get myself into. When I walked in there, the man pulled me to the back and he told me every instance to where he had put love binding spells on me, all type of dark magic, and they did several death rituals on me and my son. And I had to have it removed. I'll go into more details in another video on the rituals, binding, roots, magic, all that type of stuff, and how it was removed and things of that nature. I don't want to go too deep into that right now. I just really want to get the story out and get what I went through across and out to the right audience right now. And we can go deeper into all different type of things. You can drop questions in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer you guys. You'll have my email in the description box, everything about me, so that you guys can have a little access to me and ask me any questions. I do mentor and things of that nature. Once that got off of me, he told me every instance that nobody would know of things that happened in my household, that nobody would know. That once he told me all those details, I could sit there and I just looked like, huh? Like, how did he know the different times different people was in my house from his family, and hair was taken out of my brush, things of that nature, pictures was taken off of my social medias, and they were doing picture magic to my pictures, things of that nature. Took my whole picture, put it on the headstone, put graveyard dirt over it, all type of stuff, all crazy stuff. All I know is that I had to go through a lot of removals. And when I had went through the last removal, a bunch of black tar came out of eggs that I broke with my hands into water. Throat chakra. Nobody don't want me to say that, but I said it. Anyway, the spell was lifted. It was lifted. The day I got back after that particular session, before I left that session, the guy asked me did I want to do a return to sender on the three people that was doing it to me. It was him, one of his baby mothers, and a cousin. Someone he called his cousin that's not really his cousin. I told him no. I said anybody who knew who was above and looked below, seeing exactly what they was doing to me and my son, there's no need for me to do no return to sender. I don't care. I just want out. He said that's the reason why I help you, because you have a pure heart. And he kept saying, you don't know who you are, do you? And I said, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know anything about spirituality or anything at that point. He was like, you have a big purpose in this world. And you got a strong spiritual team behind you. He didn't know that. So after those 4 trips of going down out of state to get the stuff off of me, I got home that particular time. He was sitting at my kitchen table drinking a beer with all the lights off in the house. No TV on or nothing. I walked in the house about 12 a.m. and he turned around and looked back at me while he was sitting in that chair, and the way his neck turned around, almost like The Exorcist. And he looked at me and he said, didn't I tell you not to go back to South Carolina? And I looked at him and I said, you don't tell me what to do. I called for my dog and I went upstairs with my spiritual baths and I got to praying. And then I started making a plan. So many fights going on behind the scenes during those times. It just got to the point of where he didn't care who was around. I would get hit in front of anybody. I was getting hit in front of my nieces and nephews. One time I got hit while his daughter was there in front of her, and she thought it was funny. She laughed. Thought it was funny. It was a time where we were trying to work. I let him believe that I was trying to work everything out with him. But what he didn't know was that once I figured out that all that stuff got lifted off of me and I wasn't binded to him no more, I was secretly making my moves to leave. But he wanted to go out and talk about my brother's girlfriend and my nieces and nephews staying with me. He wanted them out. And I told him I wasn't putting them out. And it started. I saw that he was drinking a lot. We went to a restaurant to have a talk. I saw he was drinking a lot. And I just said, you know what? We're not going to get nowhere. You're starting to drink. You're getting aggravated with me. I'm getting aggravated with you. Let's go home. On the way home, I got a phone call from my brother's girlfriend at the time. And she said that my son was out of water and milk. And I said, okay, I'll stop and get him some. And he told me I better not stop and get nothing. Take him straight to the house. And I looked at him and I said, if my son needs some milk, he's getting his milk. And I stopped. When I stopped, he was already intoxicated. I could tell it was going to be nasty. He got out the car and started walking home. I went in the store, got the milk, came back out, got in the car, saw him walking, drove right past him, went home. When I got home, I said, everybody get upstairs. Do not come down these stairs. It's going to be... And when I said issue, I meant an issue. I waited for him. I knew he was going to be so angry when he got to that house because I rolled past him. I left. I didn't do what he told me to do. I did not stop like he wanted me not to stop. I didn't care. But I had to tell my nieces and nephews, I said, y'all get my son, please. And y'all take him in the room. Do not let him out. Like, all y'all go in the room. Even get the dog, put the dog up. And I sat downstairs and I waited for him to come through that door because I know I was going to be the target. And with all those kids in the house, I didn't care. I didn't know that was the day I was going to have my neck broken. He literally came in the house in a rage, tried to fight me. And when I jumped up to try to block him and push him back out the door, my son started coming down the stairs backwards. And I saw my son coming down the stairs backwards, and I'm looking and I'm like, no, go back, get him. And while I was telling them to get him, he literally grabbed me by my shirt, picked me up, and body slammed me so hard on the foyer. And the foyer, hardwood floors, foyer of my house, it was either get my whole side of my face cut up by a glass table that was in my foyer that already had like a little nick on the side from one of the fights that we got into before, or go up against the wall. And my neck went up against the wall like this. And while my neck was up against the wall like that, he was about to stomp me in my neck. And I yelled for my brother's from my brother's now wife, then girlfriend. And she came and ran downstairs and snatched him backwards, and he punched her in the face. At that time, my son was only 1 year old. And the fact that he had done punched someone else in the face, it was a whole different game at that point. It wasn't him just hitting me. He had to hit someone else. It gave me time to get up off the floor, not feeling no pain because I'm in this fight or flight stage. I'm in the stage of like, oh, it's about to go down. He didn't hit her. He don't care no more. It ain't just him hitting me. He hitting her. And he just started saying, oh, you think y'all gonna jump me? I'm gonna beat both of y'all. I'm gonna beat both of y'all. Start taking off his clothes. Like he was gonna fight both of us. But I didn't give him a chance or a second. All I know was to grab the shirt, put it back over his head, wrap it around his head. And I was hitting him. While I was pulling him, trying to get him out the door. And I literally got him out the door and threw him out the door. She called the police. Police came. And when they saw me, I was bloodied and bruised. I was bloody, bruised, cut up. My shirt was ripped up. And the cops were standing in my house for the first time since I ever met him. Because I would never, ever call the cops on him. And they asked me where he was. And I said, I don't know, he left. They told me I need to call him and tell him to come back. And he started calling my phone. And he was like, get the cops away from the house now. So I guess he was watching from the woods, kind of across the street somewhere. And I said, I can't. And I said, I'm not the one who called him. You hit somebody else. And they was taking pictures of me. They asked me that I wanted to press charges. I said no. But they said, well, the state is. I said, okay. So they said, is that him on the phone? And I just said no. And they was like, tell him to come turn himself in. I said, okay. I told him, I said, please come turn yourself in. I don't know what else to do at this point. This is a whole different situation. You ain't just hit me, you hit somebody else. And you hit us in front of kids. It went on for about 2 weeks, where he hid out, and they kept coming back to my house looking for him because my address was his address. And finally, they said, get him to turn himself in. I called them. I said, look, you got to turn yourself in because they keep coming here. They're looking for you. Turn yourself in. So he did. He turned himself in. He was arrested that night. He was released. But he didn't serve the time that you would think that he would have served. At that time, I just said, I'm tired. I can't do this no more. Once he was released, we wasn't allowed to be around each other. There was a protective order from the state between us. At that time, I didn't know I was number 12 on his family violence cases, meaning he had 12 cases before me. There were 12, I don't know if it was 12 different females to be exact, or just 12 different times. But I was number 12. But the county that I lived in did not tolerate that, and they wanted to give him federal time for what he did. At that time, I didn't even know my neck was broken. I didn't know, but I started putting plans in motion while he was gone. I said, you know what? I'm about to put this house up for sale, and I'm gone. So everybody, they had to get out. Everybody had to get out. Everybody had to go. Because at that point, me and my son weren't safe. They said, your wife is upstairs in the high-risk ward. She's been admitted. She's been admitted for hours now. Next thing I know, I see him come walking through the door of the room, and the nurse looked back at him like, where you been? And I could tell he had been drinking. He was intoxicated. He walked to the nearest bar he could find from a hospital to go sit and drink while I was in there suffering with our second child. They told me I'll probably be in the hospital for about a day or two. A day or two turned into almost 4 days. And right around the third day, I seen he was getting real aggravated, agitated. I knew it was about to be a lot of problems. I was like, release me, please. Give me whatever y'all got to give me, but release me. And they did. I went home to a monster. And other monsters. That night we got back. I got my son. I went in there and I went to sleep. It was some reason why it was so hot in my particular room of that apartment. I could not close that door even with the air conditioning being on. The whole apartment would be freezing, but that room would be burning up hot. And I just happened to look at the door about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was something staring there with some red eyes. And I was like, what in the world is that? And I like literally hit him and said, do you see that? Do you see that? And he saw it. And he chased it. He went running after it. And he never came back to the room. I grabbed my son. I went to go find him. I'm like, what was it? He was like, I don't know. It was a little demon. And it ran in here. I said, so what are you still doing in here? And he just looked at me. It was the second bedroom of that apartment. He just stared at me. And he never came back to the bedroom. That next day, I packed my stuff. I got my son. And I decided that we were leaving. And I left. I found another apartment. Very secured apartment, I thought. And that's why I took me and my son to. I had to make sure I had an apartment on the first floor because I was going on 4 months pregnant and I had a 1-year-old. It was just a lot. I got to that apartment. I thought that everything was behind me, but it wasn't. It wasn't. Okay, loves. Here's my son here in the hospital for the first time, getting his surgery, and pictures of my face when I would get beat and thrown against the wall outside. And I'm gonna end it here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please, please, please. And I hope to see you in the last video, part 4, the finale. Stay tuned. Thank you.